Yeah, sometimes you just feeling it, you know what I'm saying? You just feeling it. And I want to feel this way forever. Yeah, check it out. Okay, so welcome everyone. If you're new, and you should be, because this is our first episode of the In a Good Way podcast. I have a special guest today. This is my good friend, and let me just say it, right? She's the great granddaughter of our legendary revolutionary hero Emiliano Zapata. Also a medicine woman, and I'll let her introduce herself, and even though I already did, and say a little bit about the tribe she's from, and all that good stuff. So hello and welcome, Trish.
Hello, thank you for having me, Omar. So like Omar said, I'm Trish Zapata, and I am the great granddaughter of Emiliano Zapata, the iconic revolutionary war hero. I am an enrolled member to the Yaqui Nation and also the Carrizo Come Crudo tribe of the Ashtokna of Texas as well. I am a bear dancer and a healer. So how I actually got started in being a medicine woman is that my grandmother was a medicine woman. And growing up, she, I guess, had signs that I was going to be the one. So, she nurtured me a lot. And, while all the other kids were out playing, I was in a field picking herbs and roots and stuff. And I fought it a lot. And, the whole time she was training me, like people would come for healings, and basically those tests were my training, where she'd ask me to get this herb or get this particular one, whatever she was doing, so I would assist her. And as she got older, she would have me actually mix the medicines myself, and actually start praying and being involved in her ceremonies. And so when I was 17, I was really rebellious, so I became a cheerleader. She didn't like that. I tried to do everything I could to ignore it. And so I remember I was 17, and she was like, you have an obligation, da da da. And I'm like, but I don't even know what I'm doing. And she's like, but that's not true.
Why did she feel that it was an obligation? Like, why? Because she had a vision, or
Yes, like she said, someone in our family line has always been a medicine woman, and that's you. And so you have an obligation to this. So deep down inside, I knew that, but I was a teenager. I didn't want to be tied down with those responsibilities. And I knew that once I accepted that was in the knowing that I couldn't ever turn back. And so I fought it for a long time. I started doing more and more healings, to the point where she was just there, she'd pray and everything, but I was actually the one now taking care, of all of her clients that would come to her. And so after, she passed away, I kind of stopped, because I'm like, my grandmother's not here. There's nobody to make me do this. But she haunted my dreams.
Oh, wow.
Almost a year. And then, and in this dream, she had her medicine bundle, and she would always try to give it to me, and I would never take it. And one day in this dream, I accepted it. Oh, wow. And after that, everything was good. like my whole mindset was chaotic, and I wrestled with just wanting to be a normal teenage girl and not have to worry about these obligations. So um
So
you
around,
know
how old were you when she passed away?
um I was 22.
Oh, okay, so you were still young, and that's when she kept coming into you and the dreams and.
Yeah. And so while she was alive, I was always involved because she made that a habit. And so but after she died, I figured, oh, I'm just going to get away with it. But when you're dealing with, you know, things of spiritual nature, it doesn't go that easy.
Oh, oh, I know that.
Crazy things started happening. So,
Mm,
um, after she died, I had always been in contact with Running Fox, who was one of my grandmother's best friends.
mm,
And so, after she passed away, it was always him there guiding me, and um, I would ask him for questions. I'd say, I had this dream, or I had this vision, and this is what happened. What does that mean? And he would say, well, I don't know. That's your vision. Like, what do you think it means? And I would like joke with him and say, but I thought you were supposed to tell me these things.
mm.
He's like, it's for you to understand so that like what your plan is in life. And I went on my first like vision quest um with my grandmother, and then after that, she was training me. Then Rennie Fox comes along. I do another vision quest with him. And it was after that point that I really started to, being involved like in traditional medicine ways. So I've always lifestyle, um, and I've always been around um, other Native people, and so the spiritual aspect has always been really strong. But it wasn't until I did the second uh, vision quest that things started to come full force. I'm 58 years old, and to this, something amazing happens. I'm like, wow, did I just like do that, or was I involved? And so I'm still amazed that the creator has, chosen me to be a vessel for
And and
what
not to
he.
cut you off, but real quick, just so for those that don't understand what a vision quest is, if you don't mind explaining a little bit about what a vision quest is, and how old you were when you did your first one, and then your second one.
Okay, so I was 17 when I did my first vision quest, and what this consists of is 4 days, 4 nights, no food or water. You're out in the elements. You're basically, in this corded off space with a bunch of prayer ties, and um, you know, we're supposed to pray and meditate, and we're asking the creator, like, our visions, like, what are we supposed to do? And so in the first one, I called to my animal spirit, and of all things, here comes this porcupine. And so the porcupine ended up being my animal spirit. Um, I figured that out, and that started me, on this spiritual quest to like be one with my animal spirit, and um, practice like the red road way, which is like a good way. Like, it's a good spiritual way that any native person, when they say I'm walking the red road, is, to try to be in balance with their spiritual beliefs and the destined path that they're supposed to walk.
Okay. Okay, so like you mentioned about the vision quest, it was 4 days and nights without food or water, right? So, I mean, to me, I've never done that. So, how did you prepare to that? And like you said, your first Vision Quest was at 17, right? So, how does a 17-year-old prepare mentally, physically for, 4 days and 4 nights without food or water?
Well, I think the fact that I was 17 and, felt like I was invincible, like everything's gonna just be okay, right? And but that doesn't describe that feeling you have of, I think, this flash of terror, like you're gonna be there, you're by yourself. I was allowed to have a knife. I didn't have a gun or anything
Mm,
like that. And actually, the first time, um, there were coyotes that came around, and like a bobcat.
oh,
And but once I saw them, I wasn't afraid.
mm,
Like, I was sitting in my little circle praying and stuff, and um, they came and were just looking at me. And of course, I saw the porcupine hanging around there too, because that was the first one that showed up, and
oh,
I knew then that that was my animal spirit.
mm,
Um, and after that, I was okay. Um, we have food and water when we go, actually. So we have an offering of like dried meat and water. And so at no point in this whole time you're there are you supposed to eat or drink
mm,
uh, from it. Although you could technically, but you're not supposed to. And I guess that's part of doing your vision quest. Like, it's a temptation,
ah,
uh, especially after the first day and a half. Like, the hunger and the thirst like really kicks in, and you don't you have it but you don't have it. So um at all costs you're just supposed to leave it alone. But after that, it got better, and every day, um when I was with my grandmother, she would come every day and check on me, make sure I was okay, and then she'd pray and then she'd leave again.
oh,
And this happened for 4 days, and once I was done, though, uh, the euphoric, I can't even explain the calm, the euphoric feeling. I was truly in the knowing now. It was a life-changing event, and for anybody that does it, it will be a life-changing event.
oh. Yeah, that's amazing. I've tried. I think the most I've gone is 48 hours without food or water, and that's, yeah. But I gotta push you know to go further. But no, thank you for sharing that. I know, like you said, it's something that's usually more private. So at least what you did share, thank you. So for people that don't know what a vision quest is, um, and as far as like having a mentor, like you said, your grandma and running Fox. I know me growing up, um, I never had a mentor, and I had like all these spiritual gifts that I couldn't really talk with people about. I would try to tiptoe to see who really you know was aware, and without you don't want to seem like you're crazy. So for me, I didn't have that, and I wish I would have, but later on in life, obviously, I met people that helped me after. But how important was that? Like, how much? I mean, like you said, maybe you wouldn't have even gone in that path had your grandma not pushed you, or do you feel like it always called to you regardless? Or like, what do you feel? Or what do
Yeah, I
you feel?
think that my journey to get to where I'm at would have been a lot more difficult. Like, I believe that once, like, you know, your your life is planned out, um, and you can stray from it, but it
Oh,
just makes your life more miserable. I found that out, and so yeah, you have to embrace it.
yeah.
Um, And it can be scary, but once you do, like, things just kind of fall into place, so.
Yeah. I mean, I think now I'm barely, even though there's been times where I embrace it, like you said, I've strayed, and then I think this is probably the most I've come to peace with it, after all these, years. But yeah, and I wanted to talk about also where me and you met. We happened to meet at Standing Rock. I'm still surprised. There's still a lot of people that don't know what Standing Rock was, or how important that was. But um, I know for me, like when people ask me why I went, the best way I described it was I didn't really have a choice. Like something pulled me over there, and I want, if you could share a little bit of what made you go to Standing Rock.
Yes, so, after my grandmother died, my mentor was running Fox, who was also a medicine man. And he would always tell me, like, one day you're going to be a part of some major historical event. And I could never fathom, like, what would go on that would even happen.
Mm.
But I mean, years later, 30 something years later, here's Standing Rock. And they're calling for people to come and stand with them, against energy transfer from putting the pipeline in. And so, one night I went to sleep, had a vision that Zapata was on his black stallion, and he was telling me, like, go and stand with your brothers and sisters. So the next day I woke up and I was like, oh, I'm going to Standing Rock.
Wow, that's
You
amazing.
know, I end up there with so many other people, and I mean that's where I met you. And but I think that medicine knows medicine. I believe that. And you and we just have always gotten along. We have a lot of the same beliefs, even though there's a big age gap. You're one of my closest friends, and I appreciate the knowledge that you share with me. And I think that's important. It doesn't matter what our age. You're younger than me, and yet I've learned so much from you, from your perspective that I wouldn't normally have known, had I just been engaging with other people my age. But it's important, that we are around like-minded people, and that we share, a lot of the same beliefs. And I know you and I don't believe in the same exact thing for everything,
Mm.
but I think we have a lot of things in common. And our friendship has grown over, the years. And I think that was one of the good things in being there, is this was a historical event. We've never seen this many tribes ever in the history of the Americas come together like this. So it was a huge, an amazing spiritual experience that I had by myself and with others, and with other people from other tribes. And so, yeah, it definitely was a historical event that we were involved in. I mean, we almost were blown up in the kitchen. I don't know if you remember
Oh yeah, that's
that John and Mary showed up, and
I had
and
completely forgot about that.
and even though we laugh about some of this stuff, I don't think people understand just how serious. People lost their lives. People were severely hurt. We could have died that night, because somebody came in and turned on all the propane. I mean, we could have blown up. And here I was managing the kitchen, thinking I'm safe behind the scenes, and yet I could have lost my life that night. And so I was angry, about these things. And it's still amazing to this day how so many people don't really know what happened there and the severity of what happened. So um Yeah, I think it's important that we share these stories with everyone, just
Yeah.
so they know the truth.
No, and first, thank you for everything you said. Likewise, I've learned so much from you as well. And just to, like, I had completely forgotten about the kitchen incident until you said it right now. And for those that don't know what we're talking about, which you probably don't, these people had came in and they were posing as like media or something.
Yeah.
But, they were being, they seemed off. They seemed, they didn't want to leave. And we kept telling them, oh, like they were trying to help or something, but we're like, no, it's fine. Like we got everything, but they were very insistent. And, they were kind of being nosy around. And I guess what they had done was gone into the kitchen and opened up the propane tanks, like, I guess in hopes that we would blow up or something. And then they could close down the camp and say, see, it's unsafe. Because that's what was going on, right? They kept trying to find things, oh, it's unsafe for the kids there, or it's this or that. So, of course, having a big explosion there. But see, with us being around and kids always looking for snacks and stuff, it's like they were that heartless that they wouldn't have cared.
I
Like,
think, the creator was watching out for us because that was the day all my crew went to jail. They got arrested at the front lines. And so I wasn't going to be cooking that day. But the fact that that kitchen was full, like I had a staff of about 30 on any given day. That many people would have been in there, and it was just you, me, Ome, and that lady, and that one guy that were helping us. To otherwise, I don't even know what would have happened, but it wouldn't have been good, and many people, could have lost their lives, definitely.
sure, yeah. So yeah, that's crazy. I forgot about that. And I guess one of the things too, like how you said that you had a vision about Standing Rock. The same, right? Like I had a vision that, then it came true, and then I knew I was supposed to go. I guess I already felt like I was gonna go. I felt pulled there, but then I had a vision as well that led me to go. Um, so let me see what else I was gonna ask. So one of the things I know at Standing Rock, like I hate to use this terminology, but I don't know how else to say it. To me, like I try to describe it to people that in a spiritual aspect, it was like spiritual on crack, right? Like I saw things happening that had no explanation, like not that I hadn't already experienced things like that, but like just things that were so supernatural, right? That that it like opened me up. At that point in my life, I already felt like I was very spiritually aware and doing all these things that had happened throughout my whole life. But that took it to like even a whole nother level where it was all around, right? Like and it seemed like anytime you needed something, like it was provided for, right? Not just by people, but as like even the spirit world, like really took care of you. And so now that like I guess I'm trying to segue into like talking about miracles and everything. We could keep talking about Standing Rock forever, but I wanted to touch on something like I know like how important like the medicine is and everything. We've been taught, I don't know how else to say it, but more like in a Western way, right? Like where everything is so like they forgot, right? I guess that's one of the purposes also with this podcast is I want to bring it back to, I want to have it to where it's a very open space to talk about this. Because even, I want to thank you for coming on here, because a lot of people don't want to do this. They don't want to speak about it openly, right? They're afraid. Just and I know that because, like I said, when I was younger, I was always afraid people were gonna look at me like I'm nuts. But luckily, at one point, I just stopped caring because I was like, you know what, like I can't help it. Like this is a part of my life, and I started becoming more vocal about all the spiritual stuff, right? So like I know once, like you had an experience like with cancer, for example. That they told you were terminal. If you don't mind speaking about it, of course, feel free to however open you want to be about it. But I know at one point they said you had stage 4 cancer. You were getting treatments like through the doctors and everything. And at one point they basically said you're terminal. But then from there you decided to go the indigenous route. Natural herbs and all that. So if you don't mind speaking a little bit about that and what happened with that?
Yeah, so I had liver cancer, and not because I've ever been a drunk or anything, but because I suffer from migraines, and a lot of the medicine was like really damaging, to my liver.
Oh, wow.
So I just started to deteriorate really fast, and I was already taking some herbs and stuff, but I started to get really sick, and I, had medicine man friend who I spoke to, um, and after that, I got really, really sick where I couldn't even barely talk. I mean, I wasn't eating. I was in my bed and basically waiting to die. And he showed up with two other medicine men friends, and they brought their medicine. They were, forcing their teas. Um, they stayed there with me every day for about 3 weeks, and then I got up and
Wow.
walked out a medical city in Dallas.
Wow.
Like, the oncologist was in shock. He's like, "Oh wow, this is a miracle." And I kept trying to tell him like it is a miracle, but that's the creator working, and it's through our indigenous medicine that I'm healed. So afterwards, I had a checkup, and they did blood tests and everything, and I had gone in, and I brought this concoction of herbs that my medicine man friends had been giving it to. And I offered it to him, and I said, from one medicine person to another, this is what cured me. This can cure people.
Mm.
And I just remember him kind of smirking a little bit.
Wow.
He was not interested. He wouldn't even pick it up. He just totally disregarded it. And he was like, well, the modern medicine, da da da, whatever.
Mm.
So I just left it at that. I didn't argue with him at all. So after I had some other tests done, I get a call from him saying, um, that bag of herbs you wanted to show me? He said, do you think I can get some of that? And then I declined. And the reason I did that, and I said, it's no longer accessible to you. I said, you totally disregarded it. And, I did what my elders asked me to do. And so you didn't want it, and now it's not here for you. And he asked me twice about it, even offering to pay me for it. And, but I didn't give it to him. And so sometimes I would wonder, like, does he ever think about that? Like, he could have possibly passed up a cure for other people, but, um, so I was in remission for years. And then this past year, like right during, I got sick again. And so I had been, battling my illness and everything. And, but now I'm well. And I just went back to taking, the herbs. And I think that with belief and prayer, that those are the keys to, healing.
Yeah.
Um, And I know that everybody, has a different outlook on that. We have people from all different religions, and that's fine. I say whatever, sits well with your soul, then that's what you should do, but this is what I did. And I'm cured. And I'll continue as preventative medicine to take a lot of these herbs. Um, And I think that's probably one of my biggest mistakes is I did that for a little bit after I was well, but then I'm like, okay, I'm good. And then all of a sudden I wasn't good again. So it's just going to be a normal, you know, part of me continuing to keep myself well, probably for the rest of my life. But at least I know I'm healthy and I'm okay now. So, yeah.
Oh, and thank the creator for that. And thank you for sharing that. That's powerful. you know, I've witnessed things like that in my life. So I know, you know, I'm not going to talk about, like, I want to make this more about you. So I'm not going to go into my stories. But I guess for people that don't, I always feel like, you know, if it's just me telling a story, then people might believe me, might not. But, you know, the fact that you have a story like that, you know, and I could attest to, you know, I've witnessed things like that in life. So, you know, thank you for sharing that. You know, because there are miracles that people, you know, I want, like, that's one of the reasons, you know, for the podcast is I want people to understand how important, like, the spiritual aspect of life is. You know, like, one of my favorite sayings has always been, you know, that we're spiritual beings having a physical experience, not the other way around, you know. So, and I think we forget that, and that's how they're able to lead us whichever way they want to lead us. And so now in closing, because I don't want to keep you forever, you know, but we'll definitely do this again. And you know, we'll talk about current times, and we won't use certain words because, you know, I don't want my video to get flagged, especially being the first one for this, you know, podcast. um you know, I want to talk about, you know, during these times, like, there's been so much division, right? But for anyone watching, know that, like, please, if something doesn't resonate with you, don't, like, try to report the video or something. But, you know, Trish has been kind enough to share, you know, visions that she had during this time. And the reason it really stood out to me was because there were other people that had visions just like her, you know, even I did. But a lot of people didn't want to talk about it, right? Because, you know, people attack you and this and that. But this is a spirit of a spiritual nature, 100%. It's not to say anything in any way or judge anyone for anything that, whatever road they want to take. This is just in the spirit world, right? So you guys already know, like, we've been talking, so you know her background, you know how strong her walk has been, uh, you know, following the red road, the spiritual path, right? So this is just the visions that she had. I wanted her to share it, and I thank her for being brave enough to share it. And you know, so during these times, with everything that's going on, you know, you had a few visions about, you know, certain things, I guess, just to cut to the chase, about even the, you know,
About what I call being marked.
yeah,
I
okay,
know, you know, that has other connotations
yeah,
to it.
be marked, jabbed, whatever, but we won't say the other words because we don't want the video to get flagged or nothing. Uh, but we'll go into it, so I could let, you know, Trish get back to whatever she needs to do. And yeah, so you had actually quite a few visions about things going on. And you know, so yeah, if you're uncomfortable with it, tune out now, and we'll just see you on the next one. But if not, okay, if you don't mind sharing some of those visions.
Yes. So, you know, interestingly, when came around,
Oh,
um,
don't say that. I'm gonna edit that out, but don't, try not to say that. Well, I don't know which words, because YouTube, I mean, I've had videos that got deleted for, I mean, I couldn't even believe it. So
okay.
I don't even know anymore with YouTube. I don't even know if it's people that just report anything you say. You know, the whole freedom of speech is, like, out the window now. So we'll just try not to say that word, and then
I forgot about that.
yeah, no worries, no, it's all good.
Use the word pandemic. Is that okay?
I hope so. Like, that's what I'm telling you. I don't even know.
I mean, I could say the plague also, if that, I don't know.
Okay, we just, yeah, the whole, yeah, you know what? Why not? I don't think pandemic should be bad. So we'll talk about the pandemic, and then
Okay.
call it marked, like you said.
Okay. So, you know, when the pandemic started, a lot of different people started coming out of the woodwork, like for being marked and not being marked. And, you know, as a medicine woman and a spiritual person, I prayed about it. And while everybody was encouraged to get protected, I was still very defiant. And the reason for that was I started having these really strange dreams. And I know this sounds crazy, but they're these group of beings, the Pleiadians, who in my visions and dreams were telling us, if you've been marked, stand in this line, and if you haven't, stand in this other line. And there were like gates, and the ones marked were smirking at us, actually.
Oh,
Well, when the being opened the gate and told them to come this way, they're smirking. At the same time, there's like this dark abyss, and they're falling, and all you hear is like, ah, right? But they can't stop, so they're just continuously falling. And but then they turn to us and telling us we're okay.
hmm,
And I have stood by that. I've lost friends um, because of it, but I'm still going to stand my ground. And until they tell me otherwise, I'm going to believe these visions. It's the reason why I'm cured today, and I have to stand by that. And I grew up with kind of that militant mentality from my father. So for me to say or not to say something that's controversial doesn't bother me at all. I've always been this way. I have um, kept quiet a little more after seeing the politics of what's going on.
yeah.
And so I tell people, whether you're marked or unmarked, you can be a Christian, I mean, you can be spiritual, it doesn't matter. You have to do what you think is best. So I don't judge anybody. If you tell me you had this vision, I'm going to believe you. And so, but I think that that's a lot of the issue, is the judgmental part. And I see society as being too complacent.
Hmm.
Uh, they believe the government, they believe what's being told to them. And you have to like independently check these sources. Some of them are not in our best interest. And I'm always getting banned on Facebook for my views, but I will continue to share my wisdom and knowledge as I see fit, as a medicine woman, as a person spiritually woke. That's my obligation to society, so I'll continue to do it. And really, the only thing I can tell people is do what you feel is best for you. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. At the end of the day, we each have to answer for our own actions, whatever they may be.
Hmm, thank you. No, thank you for sharing that. I mean, I don't really know what to say. Like, aside from, the reason when you shared that vision with me, the reason it got my attention was because during this whole, um, you know, pandemic or whatever, like those beings that, I call them something different. Like, to me, I just call them star people, right? But like, they visited me a few times. They didn't necessarily show me, like a vision like yours, but I did get other things that they were showing me. And so when you told me about that, I was like, oh wow, like it really got my attention, because I didn't really remember the details like about that. I didn't remember the abyss thing that you had told me and this and that. So that's pretty crazy. But like you said, right, everybody, I think that's the best way to pray. Like, people need to pray. Like, if people don't believe in that, uh maybe, like, the dialogue we're having right now maybe might encourage people to pray, like to get back in touch, spiritually, to get in tune and not be afraid to pray, and don't think that it doesn't work, because I know I've lived that way my whole life, and it seems like you have as well, and I guess it's worked, and so with that, I mean, is there anything else you want to talk about, or?
No, I think we'll save the rest for another day. I mean, I could continue to talk. There's so many things I
No,
could,
that.
but yeah, I think that's probably enough for them to soak in for the day. And thank you for inviting me. And I look forward to having more conversations with you.
No, thank you. Thank you. It's been my honor. I appreciate you taking the time. I know, like, if I did seem a little distracted, it's because my computer, I already told you, my computer's been acting very crazy. And I'm surprised it was stable long enough for us to be able to do this, little interview podcast. So, yeah, so hopefully I didn't seem that distracted. Hopefully this came out good. And if you enjoy it, subscribe, all that good stuff, hit the notifications. This is just the first of many. I plan to have a lot of interviews like this, and a dialogue. And like I said, I want it to be an open space, where people aren't afraid. I just don't want people to be afraid. Just real quick, it's like a lot of people don't know, like, the history of, like, a lot of medicine men and women, as far as natives are concerned, that they were even being put, like, in nut houses when they were trying to follow their spiritual walk, and once the colonization began here, that's what they would do to them. Even as recent as, I think it was in the 70s and 80s, they were probably still, I think for sure the 70s, they were still doing that, and we already know the history of, like, when they will burn women for being witches because they share it. So it's been happening forever. And I don't know, if it's going to happen again in the future, but at least for the time right now, while we still can, while we're open to be able to talk about the spiritual walk, because I think it will help a lot of people. I think the world will be a better place if a lot of people that have these spiritual gifts speak up and share them, in a good way. That's why, I call this whole thing in a good way, because I want to do this in a good way where, people can learn from it, and hopefully it'll help. So thank you once again, Trish. It's been my honor. We'll speak soon, and just thank you. Okay.
All right. You have a nice day.
You too. Thank you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sometimes you're just feeling it, you know what I'm saying? You're just feeling it. And I want to feel this way forever.